Happy Bookmas Day 3. I am on a freaking roll, guys. Hi, I'm Surika. This is Surika Jane Books, and I'm on a mission to stop being a failing booktuber. And how am I doing that? I have committed to doing 25 days of Bookmas. You heard me. That is a video every single day between now and Christmas Day, and I've been having so much fun with these videos. So what is in store for today, guys? On Bookmas Day 1, we created this bookish Christmas tree behind me. On Bookmas Day 2, we talked all about the festive reads that are on my TBR. And today, for Bookmas Day 3, we're going to start by wrapping the presents that I have currently bought. Now, I don't usually do this. I am a last minute person. I tend to be sat here wrapping till 1 a.m. on Christmas Eve. However, even though I'm not finished with my Christmas shopping yet, I really want to kind of be a type A kind of person and ahead of the curve. So we're going to start wrapping what I already have. I managed to pick up some gorgeous wrapping paper. So this one is Laura Ashley and this one is The Farmhouse. I got them both at TK Maxx. And whilst we're doing that, I'm going to be going through my Goodreads and talking you through all the books that I've read in 2025. And if I feel the need, I might even show you one or two of the presents that I have bought for the people in my life. So go grab your hot chocolate, go grab a blanket, and let's get into Bookmas Day 3. So the first present I'm wrapping is for my 10-year-old son, and this is a Mario nightlight clock. He's getting increasingly hard to buy for, so I thought this was a super cute find. And the very first book we're going to be talking about, the very first book I read in 2025 was Lilac by Alex Astor. Now, I will say that I didn't hate it anywhere close to what a lot of people do. I think it's very much a Marmite book. People do seem to either really love it or hate it, but I just really didn't understand the hype. I don't think the writing was particularly good. The story just kind of felt bland and a bit of a mishmash of what everybody else was already writing at the time, and it was done in a much less gripping way, and I just didn't like any of the characters and I was not invested. I really do love wrapping presents. The next one I'm wrapping I can't show you because it's for my mum, who will occasionally watch my content. And the next book on the list is Modern Divination, and I absolutely devoured this. It was beautiful. It rivals done in a really, really good way. It felt cozy and witchy, but it was still high stakes and fast paced, and it was just perfect. I actually have a proof sitting on my shelf of Quiet Spells, which is the next book, and I cannot wait to read it. Apparently I got my son 2 nightlights, but that is totally fine because he's got 2 bedside tables, so no problem. The next book on my list is The Baby Dragon Cafe, and this was a good one. The Baby Dragon Cafe is your typical kind of cozy fantasy. It had romance and baby dragons, obviously, and it also had a grumpy sunshine element to it, and it was just so cute. And reading it in January and the weather's still cold, it was just like the perfect time of year to be reading it. It's such cute wrapping paper. The next present is this Kuromi mirror. It's a little makeup mirror. My 8-year-old is just starting to kind of get into play makeup, so I thought this was a really cute present. And the next book we're talking about, oh my goodness, guys, Babel by R.F. Kuang. This kicked off a serious hyper focus for me. It is by far one of the best books that I've ever read. It was stunning. It was exquisite. It was god tier. And it's funny because it was a book that I was intimidated by for a really long time, because a lot of people kind of very much focus on how academic it is. I'd heard a lot of people say that it wasn't easy to kind of understand, but I just didn't feel that way. Was it academic? Yes, absolutely. But I felt like when I was reading it, that Rebecca does it in a really kind of accessible way. And by the time I came to the end of Babel, I genuinely felt not only more intelligent, but I also felt more knowledgeable because she puts a lot of truth into her fiction. I felt more considerate and I felt a lot more empathy for immigrants or children of immigrants who are almost forgetting their language. Like, that's such a big part of the conversation and how important language is to culture. You know, there was heavy themes of colonialism and just so many other incredible things. And thematically, it was an incredible book. I love Rebecca's writing style and I just came out the other side better. Present number 4, wrapped. Okay, so possibly one of my favourite presents that I've bought is this beautiful dress for my daughter. Now, the brand is Biscotti, but I got it from TK Maxx and it came with a little matching handbag and it's got that 90s Clueless vibe, which my daughter is obsessed with. TK Maxx is literally one of my favourite places to find little girls' clothes. And the hope is that she will wear this one on Christmas Day. I always try and get them a special outfit for the day. And the next book we're going to be talking about is the 3rd book in a series, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Now, I have been umming and ahhing about whether I'm going to continue this series, and I do think that I feel like I'm invested. And I'm just looking at my review here, and all I wrote was "what the hell," which is hilarious because I don't remember how it ended. No, that's a lie. I do remember how it ended. I genuinely feel like the Fourth Wing Iron Flame Onyx Storm series is just a fun read. Do I think it's the best fantasy I've ever read? Absolutely not. But sometimes you don't want every book to be the best book that you've ever read. Sometimes I want something that's tropey and fun and spicy, but I feel like that's okay as long as you are mixing it with books that you definitely critically engage with more and are designed to improve your critical thinking skills. But I just don't think every book has to do that. Sometimes when I'm doing wrapping paper, I'll sit and I'll measure it out precisely. And then other times I just eyeball it and hope for the best. I feel like it works out either way. This is one of those occasions. Present number 5 is done. The next present I bought, I don't know if you guys have seen these going around on social media, but it's the one where you hang it from the door frame and these little bars drop and you've got to catch them. It just looked like so much fun. I always try and get my children a game each. I've got one on the way for my daughter. This one's for my son. And it's just like a fun interactive present. The next book I'm going to be talking about is We Used to Be Magic. And this was a really cute romance. This I read as a proof. And it was a 90s rom-com set in New York City in the height of the toxic fashion era. And it was gorgeous. I really enjoyed this one. I think she tackled some very relevant topic that when you were reading it and you remember kind of how toxic celebrity world was in the 90s, you can see that kind of coming full circle in 2025, which is not a good thing. So I think it was really good timing with when it's been published, and it just makes you kind of stop and think about things. A lot of different subjects were tackled, but it was beautiful. The next book I read was Fable for the End of the World by Ava Reid. Now, Ava Reid is one of my auto-buy authors, and I did manage to get a proof for this. This was their YA dystopian. It's a standalone, and that is criminal because it ends very openly. Ava Reid 100% knows how to write a dystopian. It was also sapphic, so it had a very real enemies to lovers kind of trope in there, but that's not doing it justice because it's not tropey. It was painful and it was heartbreaking and it was just incredible, as I knew it would be. We're on a roll with the presents, guys. Next on the list is another R.F. Kuang book, and this time it was the Poppy War trilogy, and that is right, I read them all back to back. It was an incredible fantasy, but it was, well, let's just say that I very nearly had a mental breakdown reading it. It is a tough and painful read. The characters are so complex and so flawed, but you kind of fall in love with them anyway. And you don't know who's doing the right thing, and you try and put yourself in their position, and you just find that you can't. And I just spent the whole time just heartbroken. And it's definitely a book that will go down as one of my favorite of all time, like the series as a whole. But it's also, I think, one of the only times that I could say where I have a favourite book and I will choose to never reread it, which is such a shame because I do wish I'd annotated it because there was so many things going on, but I just don't think I could put myself through that again. Then I read The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley, and I ate this up. This was another one that was just super, super fun. However, I went into this thinking it was a standalone, and it wasn't. It was the first in a duology, and it ended on a right cliffhanger. And I remember getting closer and closer to the end and being like, there's no way this is going to wrap up in the next 50 pages, 40 pages, 20 pages. And yes, I was correct. So I am waiting for the second book to come out. Was it the best book I've ever read? No, it's got a very specific style of humour. You're either going to find it funny or you're not going to find it funny. You're either going to really like this book or you're going to really dislike it. I just happened to fall into the former and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I get Brigitte's sense of humour and it was just definitely a me kind of book. The next present is the game for my daughter. This is Connect 4, but if it was beer pong, but appropriate for an 8-year-old. It just looked like a really fun way to play it. You have to bounce the ping pong ball, get it in the section, and still have to follow the rules of trying to stop someone from getting 4 in a row and trying to get 4 in a row. Hours of fun with this and probably endless tears. I'm going to kind of lump the next 5 books together because something really cool that I got to do this year was be a judge for the British Book Awards. And the next 5 books that I read were all books that were in my category. There were 6 books in total, but I'd already read When the Moon Hatched, and the other 5 I hadn't read. So I'm just going to tell you what they were. I've made a point of not making my star rating or review public on these books because it feels wrong considering I was a judge to then go out into the world with any extra positive or extra negative opinions. But I will tell you what my favourite book was that I discovered because I don't think I ever would have read it if it wasn't for the British Book Awards. So the next 5 books were Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley, Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lenin, The List of Suspicious Things by Jenny Godfrey, Butter by Asako Yuzuki, who I had so much fun. I got to interview her a few months later and that was incredible, and Green Dot by Madeline Gray. Now, the one I'm going to focus on that I'm going to talk to you about ended up becoming one of my favourite books that I've ever read, and that is Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lenin. So Glorious Exploits is set in 412 BC in Sicily, and we're following 2 local boys who decide to put on a play and cast the imprisoned Athenian soldiers to star in it. It was incredibly emotional, but then also kind of really funny at the same time. There's a lot of truth kind of set in the story. There's a lot of things that actually kind of happen. And it's told in a contemporary Irish voice, which made it really interesting. It gave it a different kind of vibe. Now, I immersive read this because I was trying to read these quite quickly, and that's how I read the quickest. The audiobook is incredible. I highly recommend because you have Irish narrators who just make that kind of Irish voice really roll off the tongue, and it really suits the story. But it was emotional and it was a really healthy kind of conversation around brotherhood, which I feel like we don't see too much of. And it kind of showcases the very best and the very worst of what humans are capable of. And I just adored it. And I think it's won so many awards, but I think in the world of social media, it is seriously underhyped. Not enough people have read this book. Not enough people have talked about this book. And if I could get you to read any book, it would be that one. And my sister 100% watches these. So hi, Alex, no peeking. And the next book I'm going to talk about is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I have a bit of a funny relationship with Ali Hazelwood books because I tried a few of her STEM romances in the past and I could not get on with them at all. I couldn't get into them. I DNF'd them. They just weren't for me. And then I read Bride last year and I loved that. Like, I ate that up so much. I think it was because it was werewolves and vampires, which was just so nostalgic to me, but kind of make it adult now. So when Deep End came out, I was really, really curious because a lot of people were like, this is her best book yet. It's her spiciest book yet, her most romantic book yet. And I loved it. I'm so glad that I read this one. I think it was a really healthy way of showcasing the kind of relationship the two main characters had, because it was very much about that kind of dom-sub relationship. And I feel like some of the books we've had in the past that have talked about these topics haven't done it very well and have actually showcased something quite toxic, whereas this kind of showed us that it is and can be healthy to have that kind of a relationship. It's very much focused on kinks, but in a very healthy, respectable way. And bravo Ali Hazelwood for tackling that. Then I read The Legacy of the Heirs, which is the second book in the Lost Kingdom saga by Laura Carter. It's an indie published fantasy debut. And if you have not picked up this series yet, I beg you to do so. It has quickly become one of my favourite series of all time. I love books that have multiple POV, and this one has that. I think I want to say there's like, do you know what? I don't even know exactly how many there are, because you have what I think is the 4 or 5 main families and then people they're associated with. It is high fantasy first, and there's not a lot of romance in it, but what there is yearning, there is tension, and because there's a sprinkle of romance for each character, it then actually feels like you're getting more than you are, but it's just the perfect amount. And Laura is so underrated. She's so incredible. She's had such an incredible year, and I just cannot wait to go through this series. I also then read the third book in that series, and I just love her so much. So I'm not actually going to wrap these ones here. These are the Dream Drops by Nido. The kids are going mad for these. These are going in the kids' stockings, and I don't wrap stocking presents. These are basically like moldable, slightly harder squishies. My son has ADHD, so loves a sensory thing, and so does my daughter. So she'd gotten a square one for her birthday from someone, and they both loved it. They both kept fighting over it, so I got them the classic teardrop shape. The next book I'm going to be talking about is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith, and I loved this one, you guys. This was basically take The Cruel Prince and Bridgerton and mix them together, and it was so much fun. The next present I'm wrapping, again, I can't show you. It's for my partner, and he doesn't necessarily watch my content, but he does subscribe to me here on YouTube. So I could come across his feed by accident. So if you're watching this, Joe, go away. Although if I came across his feed, I don't think he'd watch it. Yeah, I really enjoyed The Rose Bargain. It felt like, so it had that kind of Sealy, unsealy Faye vibe, which I think always automatically gives it a darker vibe. But to have it set in that kind of Bridgerton time with the Bridgerton balls and things like that was just what made it so whimsical. But it's the first book, and there is a second one coming, and I am literally begging Electric Monkey to send me a copy. After that, I read Elfie by Gregory Maguire. This was the prequel to the Wicked series. Now, I will kind of preface this by saying that I went and saw the show when I was about 18 years old and fell in love with it, and remember pretty much immediately reading this series, and it's very different. The written books are very, very different from the show, and now obviously the movie, but I kind of loved it anyway, but I ended up loving it for completely different reasons. I think it tackles a lot of very kind of heavy political and social themes. And so when I found out he was writing the prequel, the Elfie prequel, and I believe he's just announced he's doing a Galinda one, I remember being so excited for it. And don't get me wrong, I liked it, but I felt like it was unnecessary. I don't feel like it gave me anything new to the series. And that broke my heart a little bit. I ended up rating it 3 stars, and I think I rated it 3 stars because of my expectations of it, rather than just because it wasn't great. but I just don't think it added anything to the series. I will still be reading the Galinda version that he's doing, and we will see. It will be interesting because we don't know as much from the books about Galinda's upbringing and past, and it'll be fascinating to see where he goes with that. I forgot to show this one before I wrapped it, but this is a VR headset, a gaming headset for my son. This is his main present, and I got incredibly lucky and managed to get this for an absolute bargain in the Black Friday sales. But unfortunately, that is the last present I have time to wrap before I have to now go on the school run to pick my kids up, which means that is all we have time for in terms of books. There will be a part 2 where I will finish talking about all of the books I've read this year, because we are only up to March. And the next one I'm going to be talking about when I come back is Sunrise on the Reaping. I have so many things to say about that book. So make sure you do all of the things like comment, subscribe, stick those little notifications on so that you are informed. And I will see you tomorrow for Bookmas Day